let's take a look. What are the objectives of our compliance engagements? Just a note here, we see that our second paragraph, this is going to cover the objectives of examination-related compliance engagements. And then we're going to see the third paragraph here cover the objectives of agreed-upon procedure compliance engagements. We'll see the differences there. But in general, compliance engagements such as examinations of a client's compliance, such a mouthful, with debt covenants follows compliance attestation standards for reporting. And why does it do that? We are attesting to something. We are providing a level of assurance because when we have an examination, we're providing negative assurance. Negative assurance is a level of assurance. And as such, we're attesting to something. We are giving our word. We're giving an opinion. The objective here of the examination procedures applied to an entity's compliance is to express an opinion. You have an examination, just drilling it in your mind. Examination, our objective is to express an opinion. As we mentioned, we have negative assurance there. Based on specified criteria, and to express such an opinion, the practitioner needs to accumulate sufficient evidence about the entity's compliance with those requirements, and thereby restricting attestation risk to an appropriately low level. As mentioned, we're going to go over this much more in depth later, but essentially, let's think about this for a second. It's similar to this concept of audit risk, right? Which is the risk that you're going to provide an incorrect audit opinion. Think about it like that. This is attestation risk. This is the risk that we will attest to something that is incorrect. Important point to keep in mind. The objective of the practitioner's agreed upon procedures is to present specific findings to assist users in evaluating an entity's compliance with specified requirements or the effectiveness of an entity's internal control over compliance based on procedures agreed upon by the users. Again, agreed upon procedures, much more flexible. Examinations have specified requirements per the AICPA. So in general here, regardless of the engagement type, if a client is non-compliant, the first step for the auditor or practitioner is to request that the client makes revisions to become compliant. That's pretty fair, right? We're not just going to rat on someone and say you're not compliant and say, hey, look, bank, they're not compliant with your regulations. No, we're going to say, okay, maybe hopefully it's something that you can easily fix. You should do this so we can give you a good finding, a good opinion there. If management refuses to become compliant, the next step is to go to those charged with governance. As we've seen and will continue to see, whenever there's an issue, you go to those above whoever is giving you the issue. If it's just a normal staff accountant in the company is giving you issues, then you go to their manager. If management's giving you issues, you go to those charged with governance. If those charged with governance give you issues, that doesn't work. Get the heck out of there. Withdraw from the engagement. Seeing here, the practitioner may be engaged to perform agreed upon procedures to assist users in evaluating the following matters. We talked about this, agreed upon procedures to assess compliance, the effectiveness of the entity's internal control over compliance, and taking a note here. Generally, we'll see assess the entity's financial statements and then the effectiveness of their internal control over financial reporting. So that's very much a similarity there when we have audits and integrated audits possibly. Both the entity's compliance with specified requirements and the effectiveness, so 1 and 2. Lastly here, the practitioner also may be engaged to examine the entity's compliance with specified requirements or a written assertion. Really just summarizing that, hey, we can either do an examination or a compliance engagement. Moving along, my friends, here, a practitioner may be engaged to examine the effectiveness of the entity's internal control over compliance or an assertion related to that. However, the practitioner cannot accept an engagement unless he or she has reason to believe that the subject matter is capable of reasonably consistent evaluation against criteria that are suitable and available to users. Essentially, what are we saying? Do not accept an engagement. Well, first off, don't accept an engagement unless you think it's, there's nothing wrong with it, right? Accept the engagement if you believe that there's no fraud, that there's no possibility of association with anyone who is not a benevolent actor. But also, do not accept an engagement if you essentially don't believe you're going to be able to come to a solid conclusion. If a practitioner determines that such criteria do exist for internal control over compliance, he or she should perform the engagement in accordance with standards for attestation. Just reminding ourselves, what is attestation? What is SARS? A practitioner should not accept an engagement to perform a review of an entity's compliance with specified requirements or about the effectiveness of the internal control over compliance, or any related assertions. What are we seeing here? Essentially saying, just don't do a review. You're not allowed to do a review of compliance. You're only allowed to do examinations, agreed upon procedures, and audits. What are some other services related to our compliance engagements? Well, the practitioner may be engaged to provide other types of services, which that's fair, right? You are a jack of all trades as a practitioner. You can do a bunch of different types of services for a client. And for example, management might engage the practitioner to provide recommendations on how to improve the entity's compliance or any related internal control. Practitioner engaged to do non-attest services should refer to guidance in the respective authoritative literature there. Now, let's just take into account what we're dealing with here. If we are providing attestation, there is a level of service that we can't audit our own work, we can't do anything with our own work. So, in this case, we can consult, we can advise the client on how to improve their compliance, right? Because through, let's say, doing an examination of compliance, we're not doing anything on behalf of the client. We're not editing financials. We're not preparing financials. We're just analyzing them from compliance. And then also for, let's say, guiding the client and consulting them on compliance, we're also not really, there's no conflicts of interest there. We can do this in addition to an examination. Similarly, if you're doing an audit, you can obviously audit the financial statements as well as consult the client. Now, there's obviously a lot of restrictions on that. We have that, in our ethics related lessons, but part of an audit is also and part of any engagement is to give recommendations to the client using your, CPA, AICPA practitioner expertise to assist the client in bettering their financials and bettering their business processes. So that's okay. Basically, what we're getting at here, that's okay. And if you do that, just think about it. Like generally throughout the exam, think: is there any conflict of interest here? Like, am I auditing or doing work on anything that I prepared? Obviously, you couldn't, let's say, do a preparation where you prepare the financial statements and then an audit. That would just be a little contradictory there. Just think about it and you'll be able to figure it out. Hey there. Are you ready to not only pass your CPA exams, but truly understand and enjoy the material while studying? I know it seems impossible, right? Especially to enjoy the material? We'll do it together. Tap into the power of CPA.examprep.ai, where we've got personalized quizzes, multiple choice questions, memorization guides, flashcards, simulations, all tailored to your learning. Our adaptive study planning puts you on the fastest path to success and lifts you back up if you fall behind. Avoid wasting your precious time and money attempting an exam with a low chance of passing, because who wants that? We want to get you through this process as quick as possible. Our exam readiness prediction lets you walk in with confidence, knowing that you're prepared for success on exam day. Thankfully, there's no payment method needed to get started, so why don't you come join us? Visit cpa.examprep.ai and let's achieve your exam success together.